Hello and welcome. I'm Greg Clark, Senior Manager of Strategic Communications and Employee Engagement at TE Connectivity. I'm pleased to be hosting today's Google Hangout to kick off our celebration of Discovery Engineers Week. Throughout the week, TE will be showcasing the creativity of our engineering industry and highlighting the important role that engineers have in changing the world. In fact, TE is home to more than 7,000 engineers working in a variety of industries and applications, and as a leader in connectivity, and sensors. TE believes that innovation is best achieved when teams collaborate on building solutions that make things work better. So each day at TE Connectivity, our 7,000 engineers work closely with our customers to develop new ideas for solving complex connectivity challenges. Another important facet of that collaboration is the interaction between the engineer and the technician, such as model makers, prototype builders, etc. It's the partnership between the engineer and the technician that truly makes innovation a reality. So how does this collaboration work? And what is the industry outlook for our technicians and our engineers? In fact, recent studies cite that over the next 10 years, there will be a need for approximately 3.5 million technicians. But due to a training and skills gap, more than 2 million of those jobs will go unfulfilled. So today I'm joined by technicians and engineers to discuss the engineering and technician partnership and also talk a little bit about that gap and what the implications are on our industry. So with me today, and I'll just ask them to wave as I state their name, is Karen Benjamin, Quality Engineer, Vincent Reydams, Manufacturing Development Engineer, Rob Stauffer, Manufacturing Technician, and John McBride, Model Maker. Additionally, we're pleased to have a very special guest join us from Washington, D.C., Gardner Carrick, who's Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at the National Association of Manufacturers. And he's going to talk a lot about those numbers that I cited in terms of the skills gap. With that, I'm going to ask the participants here to just do a brief introduction of themselves and what they do. And I'll ask Kimberly and Vincent to share a little bit about how they work with the technician. So I'll first start with Rob over on my right.
My name is Rob Stauffer, manufacturing technician. I try to work with the engineering team on their special requests on the floor to try to give the customer what they want, and I'm sort of their eyes when they're not around on the floor. So if I see problems, I try to work with them as much as possible to correct any situations that occur.
Great, thanks.
Hello, I'm John McBride. I'm a model maker and a 3D printer technician. Engineering comes down and asks questions about type of materials we should use for different projects in the 3D printing area, et cetera, stuff like that.
Great. And Karen?
I'm Karen Benjamin. I'm a quality engineer. I have sort of three basic sections of my job. One is providing some direction during initial concept and development of a product. And then I do data analysis and experiments during the development of a product or a manufacturing process. And the third thing I work a little bit in is sort of strategic development of the actual processes we use as a company to make sure that we develop the right product at the right time in the right way.
Hi, I'm Vincent Reydams, a manufacturing development engineer. Work very closely with our technicians to help build processes for some of the latest connectors that come down our development pipeline. Work closely with the plants to make sure we have a process that's sound for long-term high-volume manufacturing.
Great, thanks. So wondering, Vincent and Karen, if you can talk just for a minute about that interaction you have with the technician. So when you have, there's an engineering need, maybe you hear from a customer, a new part or something, what's that interface with the technician and how does it go from kind of that initial idea all the way to maybe them producing a 3D model or an actual product, if you can highlight it for us?
Let me give an example. So one example would be if there is a particular need and I will brainstorm on that in whatever way we do that and go to the designer or a technician to help explain what the concept is and get their input also. They'll start to create a 3D model and then we'll work together to tweak that model until it contains the components or whatever shape we decide. I might do a certain amount of tolerance analysis or give some direction on specific dimensions or changes that we want. And then once those prints are done, they'll go to technical people to help figure out either choose materials or build the product.
Okay.
Yeah, I think from my side, the experience is very similar to Karen's. We'll have a new connector that comes on board. We'll need tooling designed to make that connector assemble correctly. So work with our designers to get that model. We'll concept with them, we'll work with them. A lot of the technicians we have here at TE have years of experience, so are very familiar with what we're looking for. We can always build and learn, again, new concepts based on the connectors we have. From that design, then we flow into procurement of the materials we need to assemble. Then they'll assemble the tooling with Rob is a key guy there and help us out assemble the tooling, condition it so that it's making the parts the way we want them to make them. Then we roll into low volume manufacturing state, and then we can transition to the plants from there. So very instrumental each step of the process, and we couldn't do without them.
Yeah, I was going to just add the other people out there that would count would be the quality technicians
Okay.
and the auditors or inspectors also,
Okay.
which are also eyes and ears during the manufacturing process.
Great. So it sounds like your technicians, I mean, they're throughout the entire process, and their interaction with you is really critical to bringing forth the new products or alterations in product design, et cetera, so, which is great to hear. So that, future innovation, as important as it is, might be challenged by the fact that we face a decline in the number of trained technicians that are entering into the industry, such as ours and other leading manufacturers. And to talk a little bit about some of that is, I mentioned Gardner Herrick, who's joined us from DC, and I'll turn it over to Gardner to talk a little bit about some of the studies and challenges facing the industry.
Thank you, Greg. It's a pleasure to join this Hangout today. As you said, my name is Gardner Herrick. I'm with the National Association of Manufacturers. And my job here, part of my job, is to really do the market research around what are the issues and factors that are impacting manufacturing across the United States. So one of the areas of particular concern to us is workforce. And we've spent the last 5 or 6 years really doing a series of studies trying to get a grasp on what is the state of the manufacturing workforce and what are the issues that are impacting it. And what we discovered in our most recent study with Deloitte was that due to the growth that we've been experiencing in manufacturing and due to the really just beginning and just ramping up baby boomer retirements, we're looking at something like 3.5 million jobs going to be open in manufacturing in the next 10 years. And given the way we've been, and the rate we've been replacing those over the previous 5 years, if that were to continue over the next 10 years, we'd be looking at something like a 2 million job shortfall, or 2 million worker shortfall. So that's obviously pretty significant, and we need to really do a number of things to recruit and train individuals to come into the sector. So how did we get here? When you look across the 2000s, manufacturing was really shedding workers through much of that decade. Skills gap and recruitment were not issues that were top of mind for most companies. But right around the turn of the 2010s, manufacturing really turned the corner and began to hire individuals and hire them aggressively. And we've seen 5 consecutive years of job growth after 10 plus years of job decline. So I don't believe that the industry as a whole or individual companies were prepared for that level of hiring and that level of competition amongst companies to hire individuals. So we had really allowed the pipeline of workers to atrophy, to shrink over a previous generation practically. So now we're in the position of trying to scramble and refill that pipeline. So there are really 2 key things to do if you're thinking about filling a pipeline. And number 1 is really a recruiting function. How do you get primarily young people, but also individuals that are changing careers interested in manufacturing? A few of the studies that we've done have really identified 2 key areas that we would want to focus in. And the first one was done with a group called ERCA, the Educational Research Council of America, and they go out and survey 80,000 students to find out what they think about some things, and primarily high school students. And those high school students told ERCA that by a wide majority, something like 65% of them said that they make their decisions for careers based on things that things that are interesting to them and things that they experience, versus 10% from their parents and something like 3% from guidance counselors, which tells you how important they are. So we've got students saying, I need to experience something and to really potentially make it a career choice for me. Then secondly, we do a public perception survey with Deloitte that goes out and asks 1,000 Americans what they think about manufacturing. And what we discovered on that was that manufacturing for the millennial generation was dead last in terms of industries that they are considering their career as a career choice. But we were able to dig a little deeper into the numbers and discover that those individuals that self-identify as being familiar with manufacturing, in other words, they know what today's manufacturing floor looks like, were more than twice as likely to either pursue a career in manufacturing or to recommend a career in manufacturing to their friends or their children. So on the one hand, we've got this need to get students experiencing manufacturing. And on the other, we've got proof that says once they know what manufacturing is about, they're much more likely to consider a career in it, because we've been really pushing against a 40 or 50 year negative perception about manufacturing careers being dirty and dangerous and undesirable, and all the things that you get when you picture Detroit or Pittsburgh in the 40s and 50s. So really showing potential new employees what manufacturing looks like is really important. And one program that NAM has been sponsoring that I think is particularly pertinent to where you guys are located is called Dream It, Do It. And Dream It, Do It is kind of a loose network of organizations that have been working to really make manufacturing more interesting to young people. And our Pennsylvania group has been sponsoring a video competition. So they pair up middle school students, 8th graders, with companies to create a video called What's So Cool About Manufacturing. So I'm actually going to be in the Lehigh Valley tomorrow night for the awards competition. They had, I believe, 25 middle schools paired up with 25 companies. This is the 3rd year that they've done it. And actually in Chester County, they're doing it right now. They were able to expand it from Lehigh into Chester. And I believe the Pittsburgh competition awards were last week. So it's a good way to get young people, to get 8th graders, right, 14-year-olds, right as they're kind of thinking about what they want to do, expose them to what manufacturing is, show them what you make and how you make it and the cool technologies that you can use. So I thought that was a very clever approach to getting young people exposed to manufacturing. And then once you've got them hooked, there's the question of training. How do you get them the right skill set to be successful in manufacturing? And 50 years ago, you could walk out of high school down to the local mill and get a job because it was primarily unskilled or semi-skilled labor. These days, you're talking about working with pretty significant machinery and programming, operating, and maintaining those machines. So where do you learn that skill set? I believe one of the gentlemen behind you has an associate degree in mechatronics. Is that correct? So that's a skill set that's really the integration of electrical and mechanical, electronics and controls technology, and it's really the new wave of skills in manufacturing. And Pennsylvania has also done a pretty good job across their community college network of offering those degrees, both or those skill sets, both in a certificate environment and a degree environment. So NAM's been working with colleges really around the country, trying to improve those skill sets that or improve the training to enable individuals to get the skill sets that are really required. So we've been working long and hard on this. You often hear NAM as being one of the big Washington, D.C. business associations, but we've got a group here that really spends a lot of time out in the field trying to bring solutions to the manufacturing sector. So I'm happy to join you today. I'm looking forward to coming to Pennsylvania tomorrow and seeing these videos about what's so cool about manufacturing.
Thank Gardner. Gardner, appreciate that overview. And video contest sounds really interesting. I hope that gets up on the social site so people can see it more widely. So if it does, please send us the links.
One thing to mention on that is that they sort of had a regional competition about voting for the most successful. And last year they had something like 125,000 votes on YouTube for those videos. So they really took it as kind of a school pride thing and marketed it around the region and said, come vote for ours. So it was really a great way to engage not just the students, but the entire region and use the YouTube platform as a way to do it. So I thought that was clever.
Great. Well, Rob and John, I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit and ask, share a little bit about how long you've been with TE. And maybe if you could talk about some of the more recent changes relative to your roles as technicians, some of the training you mentioned 3D printing. Talk a little bit about some of the newer things that you're learning and how that's changed.
I've been with TE for 25 years, and I went through, I worked in the model shop, and now with the 3D printing coming along, I'm getting more involved with that, with the different technologies of 3D printing, metal printing, FDM, SLA, Projet.
I've been with the company for 28 years. And since I've started with the company back years ago, I've changed myself as far as my career when I first started to where I'm at currently today. The technology that the engineers are coming out with and the machinery that they're designing is taking the company in different directions to where it'll benefit the company as a whole and also the industry. So it's intriguing to see what they come out with, work with what they have, and once that gets out to the floor, it's also intriguing to training other employees, depending on where the machine is going, just so they understand how the machine runs and make it the parts that required for the customer. So it's an ongoing challenge. It's the way the industry is going, and it's only a positive way to take the industry today is to keep up with today's technology and move forward.
Great. So Gardner, wondering just back to you for a minute, as Rob and John shared some of the newer things they're learning and changes in the industry. Can you talk a little bit about, when you engage young people around the notion of being a technician and you illuminate them, for example, the skill sets they'll learn, the average salary that they might make, is there a light bulb that goes off all of a sudden? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think the best example that we're able to do is to bring back the 21-year-olds, the ones that just spent 2 years at community college, gotten a job in manufacturing, and now own their own home, are living on their own, and are really in an incredibly successful position at a very young age, and can see a career path that leads them to a salary that is extremely competitive, in some cases, above 6 figures, depending upon the position and the sector that they're in. A lot of times when we talk to community colleges, they'll bring back the individuals that were there a year ago and have them come speak to the class that's there to say, this is where I'm at, and this is where you can be too. So it really does, I think, manufacturing is not a sector and not a set of jobs that are quite clearly in the public eye. Most manufacturing facilities are set 100 yards off the road behind chain link fences with no windows in the building. So nobody really sees those positions. They don't know what they are. They don't know how much they make. They don't know what they make. So we really need to demystify that and putting on kind of the face of manufacturing as a recent grad of one of those programs helps for those individuals to see that that person was where I'm sitting 2 years ago, and now they own their own car and are saving to get a mortgage. So it really does, you need to kind of put it in front of their face, because every day they're real retail locations or at Home Depot or at lots of places where they can see what those jobs are like and interact with those individuals. And it's just not the same in manufacturing.
Great. So Vincent and Karen, maybe can either of you share an example of a recent project or a current project you're working on where either Rob, John, or another technician really played a key role in kind of moving that project forward, or delivering something that just was right on for what the customer is looking for? Do either of you have a example you can share around something like that?
I can go, I guess.
Okay.
Sure. So, as I mentioned earlier, I work regularly with Rob, less so with John, but still pretty frequently with both. And a lot of times, we have, as an engineer, we manage several different parts of the process. And what Rob was saying earlier, he is the eyes and ears of the program when we're not around, especially during the initial conditioning and setup of all these tools. So I guess the most recent example is when we just set up a program several months ago, and we design the best we can, obviously, and there's always some tweaks that are needed to dial in the product, whether that's the product is slightly not as we intended it to be, or the tooling design was not quite right. But Rob has that ability to look at that tooling, diagnose the issue, and correct it a lot of times without even consulting any of the engineers. So he has that skill set, and that keeps projects moving along at a much faster rate. Without that technician set of eyes and ears there, that's a delay and ultimately hurts our customer deliveries. So that's the one example. I'm not sure if Karen had any others.
I do agree with the eyes and ears, and I was going to say it one different way, is that I feel the closest to the customer. At TE, we talk a lot about extraordinary customer experience, and when I'm on the manufacturing line and I'm looking at parts and inspecting parts, I put them in the packaging. The next person who's going to touch them is the customer. So I rely a lot on the eyes and ears also, in particular of the quality techs, to make judgments and determine when they need to get an engineer involved to make a disposition, or whether the guidelines that we've written for dispositioning are clear, or whether new problems are arising.
Great. So I think you mentioned the 3D printing, and I can't remember if you or Rob has kind of the prototype design work that you do.
Yeah,
so,
we do.
So, yep. So are you doing sort of 3D CAD design, or?
The engineers will send us in a file,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll change it into a file that we can run it into the machine. And that's how we do the printing of the parts.
How has that advancement saved you in terms of, saved you time, saved you money, really made you kind of be able to better see what the customer is ultimately looking for?
Right. Well, they'll send in a design, and some jobs we can have done in hours or 24 hours, where it's a lights out operation where we're not in the building, but the machine's running, making the part. So they can actually see a functioning part possibly in a day or hours.
And how would that have compared to maybe 5 or 10 years ago in the process?
It could take weeks, days, and days, because you'd be making, a person would be machining it with a milling machine or a lathe or some other type of equipment, and this just saves the time, and the turnaround time's unbelievable.
Great, great. Karen, you and I have talked a little bit about that gap of people going into the technical field, and I'm hearing how important the technicians are to the two of you. I'm hearing some of the exciting things that people are involved with from Rob and John. Can you tell me, has that gap already been evident to both of you in terms of, future or current projects that you are aspiring, and can you talk a little bit about the impact that it's having?
Yeah, I think there already is a gap, and I think we see it a lot, in particular at our company, in the design resources, and some in the technical prototyping and model shop build. And we've already struggled with that. We've changed to use a lot of resources outside of TE to try and fill that gap. And it's already been evident for quite a while at my level.
Yeah, I'll echo what Karen said. The designer gap, I think, is the biggest one we're seeing internally at TE. And that's a challenge because the way the industry is working right now, we're starting to shift more into digital designs. So working exclusively from 3D models. And that's kind of an ongoing thing that we're really pushing here at TE. And without those skilled designers there, that really hampers that progress. So it's something that I think is going to have to change here. We're going to need more designers in-house to make that successful moving forward.
Gardner,
Greg,
go ahead.
That's actually a good example of an occupation that really wasn't very big in manufacturing a generation ago. Kind of the computer design side, and now is a big component of it. So how do you recruit from design schools and from programs that are maybe attracting more of the arts-based individual, and say, there's a career for you in manufacturing that'll let you kind of, express that skill set and also make things. So it's important to really show the breadth of occupations in manufacturing beyond just what is sort of the perceived of a production worker on the line.
And Gardner, to that, building on what you said, one question I have is, do you often have younger people who are considering the technical field? Maybe it's a first step before they might eventually become an engineer, or they get exposed and get excited and decide they just want to continue their development and study engineering. Have you seen that progression as well?
Not as much, truthfully. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but you end up seeing individuals, when you're talking about sort of a calculus-based engineering curriculum, you end up seeing individuals that go into the applied side, not as often transfer into that calculus-based engineering track. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but
Okay, I think we might have, are you back with us, Gardner? Okay, we might have lost Gardner's connection, so apologize for that. Actually, in the few minutes we have left, the thing that I just want to do maybe is to go across our group here and just ask them if there's any particular message they would share to a person who's considering a field or hasn't considered a field as a technician. Oh, you're back.
Did I lose you?
Okay, I think we definitely lost Gardner there, so apologize. That's the challenges with some of the remote connections, but we apologize. And so just again, in the final minutes we have, ask you all what you might say to a young person who might consider a skill, acquiring skills to become a technician, study a technician. I know that TE works with universities and technical schools around the world. Nearby in Lancaster, we work with Stevens Technical Institute. We give internships to people who are looking for that on-the-job experience. We buy toolkits for students in their first year, and we've been fortunate enough that some of them have actually come to work for TE after they've completed their studies, and we're great and that's great, and we're happy for their contribution. So just wondering if you might have an encouraging word and just how much you've really enjoyed the role as a technician. You can tell me about the headaches after we get off the Hangout. We'll save that. So go ahead.
From my experience, I think if you want to be a technician, you got to go to school. Try to get as much learning you can as far as the machining skills. As it was told earlier about the mechatronics program through HACK, It's a fantastic course which gives you all the skills you need, whether it be electrical, to hydraulics, to sensors. These tools here, it just makes you excel. So when you go into a field in manufacturing, you have a basic understanding of how things function, and it makes you understand what the machine's going to do to make your job a lot easier. But the thing is, don't ever go into a field to think, once I know this, you can do everything. Technology's changing, and you might know today is going to be gone tomorrow. You have to learn something new tomorrow. So always have it in your mind that you want to learn something new, and it makes an exciting career. It really does.
Rob pretty much summed it up. We currently have 3 students coming in from a local college. They come in twice a week down to the 3D printing area just for further knowledge. And our company is involved with 2 local colleges here where we're helping support the programs that they're running in the printing processes.
And then from our engineers?
Well, I will say I think it's important what the special guest Gardner said about getting an idea of what you're interested in doing. I know at my local high school there are also a lot of programs going on, STEM-related programs, where they actually do get familiarized with CAD. They have some 3D printing opportunities even in the school. And those are, I've been really impressed, tremendous opportunities. So that if you even think that that's a direction that you're interested in, definitely take advantage of all those programs.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think, being able to build something is always very exciting. So getting hands-on with product from start to finish, design through assembly of the components, even the tooling, all the way through building. I think it's it's something people can grasp. It's not like electrical, engineering where you're kind of looking at diagrams and it's spatial. But this, you're making something that you're selling to someone else, and that's what drives a big company like TE. So, whatever field that you might be in, whether it's art, can be comparable to modeling, whether it's being mechanical, it's all positive. So manufacturing can be for you no matter what field, I think. So.
Thanks, Vincent. I appreciate that point, all the points. I think it's great, the fact that you can be focused on art or you can be focused on something that's science or mathematic related and still find your way into the industry and help move innovation forward. So I just want to thank everybody who participated in the Hangout this morning. Gardner, thanks to you for joining us from DC, and Karen and Vincent, Rob and John, really appreciate it. I would say if you'd like to learn more about some of the research that Gardner mentioned, please go to the website for the National Association of Manufacturers. It's simply nam.org. And you can keep up with what TE is doing for the rest of Engineers Week by looking up TE Connectivity on our Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social media platforms. So thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.